So good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Souza. I'm your Education and Events Director here at SCORE. We got a great class today, Appraisal Solutions for Realtors. You guys are partners in this business. Anthony Blackburn is the owner of Apple Appraisals, and he's going to talk to you about how to partner with your appraisal, what makes their job easier, what will make your job easier. This is an interactive class. If you've got questions on Zoom, you can either put it into the chat box and Steve will read that question, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. We've got about 8 people in the room, if I can count right. 6 people in the room here. We've got a couple more coming. And if they have questions, they'll also raise their hands. So we thank you guys for being here, and welcome Tony Blackburn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me get this set up. There we go. All right. Can we hear me over there on Zoom? Okay. We're looking good. All right. Hey, thank you very much. My name is Anthony Blackburn. I am the CEO of Apple Appraisal LLC. We're an appraisal management company located up in Pleasant Hill, California. And we do appraisals all over California and Nevada. And I want to thank Santa Clara Association of Realtors for having me here. This is really exciting for me. This is coming back home for me because I grew up here in San Jose. I went to Branham High School. Anybody know Branham High School? Go Bruins. Yeah. I went to University of Saratoga. Does anybody, you're laughing over there. You know what that is. West Valley College. University of Saratoga. Yeah. So this is coming back home for me. And I appreciate you guys having me. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate all the Zoom attendees and I appreciate the in-person attendees. We'll have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about a lot of things here today. We're a licensed appraisal management company. Apple Appraisal is a licensed appraisal management company. We've been in business since about 1990. So we're not one of these new, what I call McAMCs that came on the scene when all the changes happened to appraisals about 10 years ago. We serve California and Nevada. And we are appraiser owned and managed. I'm the owner, the CEO. I'm an everyday appraiser. I've got an appraisal after this, after I'm done here. So I'm a boots on the ground appraiser. And I really appreciate being able to come out and talk to realtors. First thing we're going to talk about statistics. What's going on in the housing market. We're going to talk about Santa Clara County, the charts and things that you're going to see. Those are for think about in context of Santa Clara County as a whole, homes under 5,000 square feet, under an acre, detached single family homes. So that's kind of the context of what I'm going to be talking about with these charts here. But I've got something a little funny here for you. This is a meme. This is one of my buddies, Ryan Lundquist, puts these together. This is the sellers trying to use their power to bring back those multiple offers that they know were just out there just a little while ago. But then you got the buyers on the other side that are smiling big now because they can actually get into contract. Is that kind of what you guys are seeing? You know, the market certainly has changed here in the past couple of months. It really hasn't been that long. SakramentoAppraisalblog.com. That's Ryan's blog that he does. It is up in Sacramento, but he has a lot of great information for realtors, no matter where you work. He really puts a lot of effort into this, and he's known as the man, the appraiser man up in Sacramento County. So definitely check out SakramentoAppraisalblog.com. He's got a lot of great information on there. Yeah, good stuff. The first thing that I want to talk about here, the first slide I'm going to talk about is what's going on with interest rates, because you can really see what happened to interest rates and how it impacted the markets. It is just amazing how clear it is. One thing that you see is with this chart is from Freddie Mac. I just pulled it down today. Rates just went under 5%. 4.99, that 0.01%, that's everything to everybody, because now we're back into the fours. All right. But you can see how interest rates have been going up. They started going up literally on January 1st. That's when interest rates started increasing. And then they took off like a rocket ship. We had all heard about this. We had all been saturated with information from all of our sources saying rates were going to go up. Rates, we've been hearing that for years. Rates are going to go up. Rates are going to go up. Rates are going to go up. Well, when they went up, I think the Fed waited too long, and they were really forced into really having to hammer those rates. And so we've been having 0.75% or 75 basis point increases. And you can see what's happened to interest rates. Now, for people that haven't been in the industry that long, whether you're a realtor or an appraiser, or maybe you're a new buyer, or you've just sold a house, the sky wasn't falling. This is 5% or even sub 5% is just an amazingly cheap money still. Money is very, very cheap still, even though rates have gone up. Everybody's got this story. My first house that I bought in Fairfield, my wife and I bought, this is probably 1993-ish, 92-ish. Our first house that we bought, it was a 12% loan. Now rates were also a lot lower prices were a lot lower back then, but so were wages, so it's all relative. And, rates have started to come down. We're back under 5% now, and everybody's certainly very excited about that. Maybe we'll start to see a little bit of a bump in where we're coming down with the housing prices are. Okay, this first chart is the number of sales per month that here in Santa Clara County. Again, think in context of rates going up January 1st, literally January 1st, and taking off like a rocket ship. Also think in context of these are single family homes under 5,000 square feet, under an acre in all of Santa Clara County, detached homes. And you can see how the number of sales started, and this chart goes back to July of 2021, and it's a pretty typical bell curve up until the first part of the year. So the typical bell curve that we would see is property values would top out usually around July, June or July. Does everybody know why? Demand tops out around June or July. Kids are going back to school. That's right. Everybody wants to get their deal done, and they want to get the kids settled before they get back into school, which, by the way, is earlier and earlier every year. I think kids are literally going back to school today. Today's the first day of school for a lot of kids that I know. When I was growing up here in San Jose, it was always day after Labor Day, the first Tuesday after Labor Day. But that's still a month away. So yeah, kids are going to school earlier and earlier. So that's really pushed over the years, pushed these bell curves back a little bit. But you can see things kind of stable out and start to decline into January. That's fairly typical of what we would normally see. And then in January, weather starts getting better. The holidays are behind us. Spring is right around the corner, and that's where we see generally property values start to increase because demand is increasing. Well, this past January and February, things took off like a rocket. Again, think in context of interest rates starting to take off. And we have a new word in our vocabulary that really is apropos here, and that's FOMO. Everybody knows what FOMO is now. Fear of missing out. That was something that we learned over the past couple of years, a new word that's come out. Fear of missing out on a lot of things. Stock market increases, buying and selling because you don't want to miss out on those meme stocks going up 30% in a day. And really that's what this shows. This is fear of missing out of those interest rates that were sub 4%. And so the number of sales really took off. I mean, people needed to get these deals done. So they really took off into March and April, and that's about where things topped off. This chart is showing. And then they've slowly declined and then fell off a cliff. You're going to see probably this month, the bar that you see on the very right side for August of 2022, that's to date. Today's what, the 10th? Today's the 10th? Yeah, so that's to date on the 10th. And we're on track for about 550 sales for August. That'll I'll give you kind of a summary a little bit later on, but that's low for this time of year. Definitely very low for this time of year. If you look at July of 2021, we were about 1150, and now we're going to be around 550. So get out there and sell some more houses. All right, guys. All right, get out there and sell some more. Yes.
An appraiser.
Recording in progress.
Where did I pull the data from is the question. And this is straight, fresh, hot and steaming out of MLS. Yeah, right out of the MLS. I did send a copy, a PDF of the presentation. So just check in here and they'll send you a copy of the PDF. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes.
we have a question on Zoom. Is this chart for the Santa Clara County?
Yeah, this is for Santa Clara County as a whole, single family homes under 5,000 square feet, under an acre. Yep, there we go. All right, next chart. This is the average combined days on market for Santa Clara County. And this is a little bit inverse relationship. So it looks like things are going up. Well, that's an indicator of decreasing demand, even though it's going up. And again, the bell curve is typical for what we saw for 2021. Tops out in the towards the end of the summer, and then kind of steadily declines, and then really took off this spring. That's the combined days on market. Increasing days on market, the longer it takes to sell a house, that's an indicator of decreasing demand. Again, because of those declining interest, those increasing interest rates, fear of missing out. People really wanted to get into these properties here in the first couple months of the year, and then now the interest rates were up to about 5%. Starting in June, people were making their decision not to make a buying decision then, not to buy. They were holding off, and so days on market was going up. But you have to also look at this in its proper context. 25 days is what we're getting close to. 25 days is not very long to sell a house. It really isn't. That's less than a month. And you go to other parts of the country, even other parts of the state, they would kill to have, be able to sell a house in a month. I have a property up in Tuolumne County, rural area up in just east of Stockton. And not only are the property values about maybe 15% of what they are here, maybe 20% of what they are here, but it also takes about 90 days to sell a house up there. Even a really nice house, it takes quite a while. That's the average up there. So, the sky isn't falling. That's one of the things that I want you guys to take away from with this presentation. If you look back historically, 25 days, that's actually probably less over the last 10 years than where we would normally have been. So, but you can see how it's really taken off and gone up pretty dramatically. Average list price to sale price ratio in Santa Clara County. Again, this is a little bit of an inverse relationship. When you see list price to sale price ratio decline, that's also a indication of declining values and declining demand. And again, we topped out in March, April. That's about when things topped out and then really started declining. Look at this. This is something that's amazing. You can buy a house for what the list price is now, on average. When was the last time that you saw that? Just a few months ago, if you look in April, properties were selling on average 15% over list price. If you weren't offering 15% over the list price, you weren't even in the game at that point. So, we go back to that meme that I showed you. That's why the buyers are smiling right now. They can actually get in for list price. Which is an amazing thing, because we haven't seen that for several years. Average sale price trend. This is something that realtors use a lot. And just the numbers here are just, honestly, they're staggering. Now, Okay, let's get everybody on Zoom to do this also. Who thought years ago, if you've been in real estate for any length of time, who thought the average price in your lifetime was going to be 2.2 million here in Santa Clara County? 2.2 million average price. No. Yeah, absolutely not. It's pretty crazy. But that's what happened. And this chart really, I mean, just really defines FOMO about as much as you can get. Property values were kind of bouncing around in the latter part of 2021. And then once January hit and everybody said, oh my God, rates are going up, look at what happened to demand. Demand just shot up, topped out in March and April, and then it's been steadily declining. That's that FOMO effect. And now we're down under 2 million, which is still crazy high, but it is declining. No contingencies. That's right. But this is a pretty amazing number. Now, this next chart is what I use every day as an appraiser. This is the average sale price per square foot. This is the trend that I look at on every appraisal that I do when I'm trying to find out what the market's doing. The reason I like average price per square foot as opposed to average price is price per square foot tends to normalize properties a little more. It tends to take the fixer-uppers and the properties that have been really highly remodeled or have a really nice view or have really nice features, and it tends to normalize those a little more, and it gives you a little more accurate view of what's going on in the markets. And again, you could see just that the increase percentage wise was pretty staggering into March. Just crazy. And then it's been declining. The interesting thing that I'm seeing here in August, and this is the first, I do these presentations all the time, all over. I probably do about one or two of these a week in different parts of California. This is the first chart that I've done where I've seen a bounce for August. So have we hit bottom? I don't know. If you go back to, let's go back to those interest rates real quick. Whoops. Let's go back to those interest rates. Notice that we topped out about a month and a half ago. Let's see, that looks like maybe 2 months ago. We topped out and interest rates have been declining ever since. Well, maybe people are coming back into the market now and we're starting to see a little more demand come back in. That's the first sign that I've seen. Now, what I want you to take away from this is we've had here in Santa Clara County 4 months of declining prices according to this, and same with the average price. When appraisers start putting, if anyone is familiar with an appraisal form, on the front page of the appraisal form, there's a box that appraisers can check for increasing property values, stable property values, or decreasing property values in the neighborhood. That's one thing that we have to analyze. For years, we've put increasing and sometimes stable, but mostly increasing for years. And that's what everybody's been used to, literally going back to, I would say 2010. Everything's been increasing since then. Now appraisers are starting to put decreasing, and underwriters and lenders and investors lose their minds because they all of a sudden the property is riskier. The loan is riskier now. So I had an example yesterday, property in Concord. It was a purchase. The appraisal was done, sent to the lender. Lender calls me back. Do we have a question there? Okay, thanks. And so it was a property in Concord. Lender calls me up and says, oh my God, the deal is dead. The appraiser put declining values. And she said the investor won't do the loan if the appraiser puts declining values. But we're bound, as appraisers, we're bound to analyze the neighborhood correctly. And if property values are going down, property values are going down. That's just the way it goes. Not every appraiser is the same. Some appraisers have a different time period that they're analyzing to show what property values are doing. If you look at this, me personally, when I do appraisals, I look at a 1-year time period. And if you look at this chart over a 1-year time period, property values are still going up. So my context in my reports is 1 year, and I would say it was an increase in market. And late people have to sit way in the back. Late people have to sit way in the back. The troublemakers. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. And so I would still classify this as an increasing market. But when I'm making my adjustments on the appraisal, I'm going to talk about property values over the past few months, the past 4 months, they've been declining. And so that's going to have an impact on the way that I analyze my comparables. And in this particular case that I'm talking to you about, the appraised value came in over the contract price, higher than the contract price. There were 3 offers. It was an Eichler. Does everybody know what an Eichler home is? Eichler homes. I lived in one across the street from St. Christopher's in San Jose. There's a big subdivision of them there, and I lived in one when I was in elementary school there. And they're great homes, but they're really a cult home, and people really have a lot of desire for them. So it doesn't surprise me that it sold over list. The appraised value actually ended up coming in over the contract price with 3 offers, but the appraiser checked that declining box on page 1, and I get a call from the lender saying, well, I guess the deal's dead now. You know, so what I want you to take away from this is that is a possibility now for you, for your transactions. And it doesn't come down to slipping the appraiser a bottle of Silver Oak Cabernet to make sure that they don't put that declining check mark there. The appraiser is going to put what's happening to the market, and the appraiser is going to analyze it based on their own experience and the way that they like to report things. It's the investors and the lenders that are going to have to get used to this, because property values don't always go up. I think some people think that there's a constitutional amendment in the California Constitution that says property values must go up at least 5% per year. But that's not the case. And property values do kind of go up and down. That is MLS statistics. MLS data. The appraiser in that particular case, property values had gone down 3 or 4 months in a row, and so they're going to classify it as declining. There's no rule that says they have to, because again, they have their own context. But you're going to start to see some appraisers saying that. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I mean, I never say never as far as doing some sort of appeal like that. The question is, what can a realtor do about that, about the appraiser checking that declining box? And really nothing. The numbers just are what the numbers are. The market just has to get used to this again, because we used to make loans when property values were going down. We used to make them all the time. Lenders have to be able to understand what's going on in the market in order to make an informed decision. Yeah. So the appraiser has to report that correctly. Yeah. Don't know yet. That was just yesterday. Don't know yet. Yeah. What's going to ultimately happen to it. But where have all the unicorns gone? I'm not as talented as Ryan is back in Sacramento. But I found this because the song comes into my head. Where did all the unicorns go? And the unicorns are, those deals that came in with 25 offers and, selling, 20%, 30% over list price. And with the money just falling into the seller's laps, those are gone. Those are gone for the most part. And sellers are asking, where have all the unicorns gone? Well, they went the way with interest rates. Interest rates went up, and the unicorns left the building. So what I want you to take from this is make sure that your sellers and your buyers are all in the right mindset and everybody understands what the market really is. It doesn't help anybody to say, well, you know what, let's go in and go in hard on this one, because I know from that last transaction I did 3 months ago, there were 20 other offers. Even 3 months ago, that doesn't apply now. The market has changed so rapidly and so significantly. It's important to make sure you understand and that your buyers and sellers understand what the current market is like.
And Tony, we have a question on Zoom from
Yes.
Vicky. Go ahead, Vicky.
Hello. I wanted to go back to your comment about, you looking at the data to determine whether it's an increasing or decreasing market. And you were saying that you would use a 1 year time, stretch of time. Does it sort of say, is it indicated in the report whether the appraiser is using, 3-month period, 6-month period, 1 year period?
Yeah, good question. The form actually doesn't ask us that. It doesn't ask us what the time context is. I put it in because I feel it's a significant thing that needs to be in the report so that everybody understands the time period that I'm talking about. Am I talking, when I put the increasing or stable or decreasing checkbox on page 1, am I talking about the past 3 months, the past 6 months, the past year, the past 5 years, the past 10 years? So it's important to have a time context there, in my opinion. Not all appraisers do that, and it kind of leaves everybody guessing a little bit. But a lot of appraisers will say, kind of the standard is 3 to 4 months in a row of declining values, they're going to put declining. Yeah. Yes. Question.
You're picking up the 1 year. You seem to be using such a problem. You're saying performance in this area, this type of house, this square foot. You're not looking for market.
Yeah. So the question is, when I'm determining what's going on in a neighborhood, what's the data set that I'm using? And the data set is the entire market in that neighborhood. So not homes that are similar to the subject, not 3-bedroom, 2 baths that are 1,200 square feet, because maybe that neighborhood has homes that range from 2-bedroom, 1 baths that are 800 square feet to 4,000 square foot homes that have been added on to and have 5 bedrooms and 4 baths. Those are all still in the neighborhood, and those are all still part of the analysis on page 1. Now, when no, exactly. Single family homes only. And for that, if I'm doing a condo, then I'm only looking at condos. But yeah, when I'm looking at page 1 of the appraisal, I'm looking at what's going on in the entire neighborhood. And that does change when I go to page 2 of the appraisal and I'm trying to figure out what comparables I'm going to use. Then I am looking for stuff that's similar to my subject. Sorry, thanks.
Hi, Zoom. Mile, half mile, what do you, or by school district, or?
Yeah, there is no hard and fast rule for differences in size or distance or time. Fannie Mae's guideline to us appraisers is essentially, it comes down to the 3 most similar, 3 most relevant, 3 most proximate sales. In some neighborhoods you can go to are actually quite large, could be several miles in distance, but they have the same school district. They have people shop at the same shopping centers and get onto the freeway at the same area, same on-ramps, and commute the same way, and the parks are the same. The police, fire, garbage, services are all the same. Those can be big neighborhoods. So, it's not unheard of to see an appraiser go, in some cases, I'm thinking of a particular neighborhood in Walnut Creek. You could go 2 miles and it's the same neighborhood, and it's totally legitimate. Some lenders have manufactured a 1 mile standard, but Fannie Mae has no guideline for that and no guidelines for differences in size, or they just look for the most similar, most relevant, the things that apply to your property the best. Thanks. Yeah.
We have a question on Zoom.
Yeah. Question over here.
So from there, distance as you mentioned, it's quarter mile to 1 mile if that's lender's criteria. And how about timing? COE in the last 90 days?
Yeah,
And-
so Fannie Mae does like to see their sales. So the question is, how far do you go back in time? Fannie Mae does like to see 1 year, everything sold in the appraisal within the past year. Some lenders have an overlay to that where they want to see 2 sales that have closed within the past 90 days and 1 or 2 listings or pendings. Sometimes that's not achievable. Sometimes it's not there.
Right.
And if it's not there, the appraiser can't manufacture those and the appraiser just has to use the next best. Or if you have a really unique property, let's say somebody called me recently about a property that's an octagon and trying to find other sales that are octagon style homes or dome style homes or something relatively similar. I had to go back 5 years to see what was going on with that style of home because there was a sale in the same area of a home that was really unique like that. And how did it compare to other homes at the time? So there's times when the appraiser could go back much further than that. Yes.
And lastly,
Yes. Go
for
ahead.
the square footage, can we use say plus minus 300 square feet?
Yeah, there
living
is no.
space? And
Yeah,
the lot size too. Now, I believe that because ADU, the lot size is quite premium compared to
right,
last year.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
compared to
ADUs is a
SB
whole.
19 be passed.
Yeah, accessory dwelling units, that's a whole nother story. And we're kind of, as appraisers, still trying to flesh that out because it's, the new laws have only been in place for a couple of years. And now we're only starting to see properties come on the market where, I mean, that's what you see in the comments is you can put an ADU in the backyard. This lot is big enough. We're starting to see that more and more now. And that's, but there is no minimum that we're looking at or no percentage difference that we're looking at, whether it's in terms of lot size or number of bedrooms or the square footage of the house or the age of the house. There is no standard difference that we're looking for in a percentage or a number of square feet or a number of years. It still comes down to the 3 most similar, 3 most recent, 3 most relevant sales, 3 most similar sales. And sometimes if you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that might be a 3-bedroom, 1-bath that's on the same block that just sold. The appraiser could determine that that's the most relevant and then just make a big bathroom adjustment. Because, I've always said, people always ask, what do I adjust for a bathroom? And I always tell people, well, how much would you pay not to share a bathroom with your kids? A lot. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking to the market, to tell us what the adjustments should be. And there's lots of ways to do that there's all kinds of things. And this is going to get a little higher here, but regression analysis, using matched pairs analysis. There's all kinds of techniques that appraisers can use, but we do look to the market and sales to tell us what adjustments should be. Yeah.
Tony, we have 2 questions on Zoom.
Yes.
Go ahead, Chow, and unmute.
Hi, yeah. How would you handle the homes that have unpermitted footage addition to the home or garage conversion, but
Great
unpermitted?
Great question. So Fannie Mae has a guideline for appraisers that tells them how to address additions or garage conversions that they think may be unpermitted. The example that I always use, I don't have it in this presentation here, but everybody knows the Winchester Mystery House. Yeah. You think some of those additions are unpermitted? Yeah, but they still exist and they're still there and they still have value. And what Fannie Mae tells us as appraisers is they want us to comment on the appearance and the impact on the market value that addition has. And a quick example is, let's take a 1,200 square foot home, originally built as a 1,200 square foot home, and it has a 400 square foot addition on the back of it, maybe of a family room. Maybe it was built by a contractor Maybe it's that nice. Maybe you can't even tell that there's an addition, but public record says 1,200 square feet, but it's a 1,600 square foot home. But it's done without permits. Correct. Done without permits. Put yourself in the shoes of the listing agent. Are you going to go to your seller and say, you know what, that's a nice family room that you have there, and I love the big screen in there. I'm sure it's a great place to watch Sunday football. And but since you didn't get permits on this, we're only going to price this as if it was a 1,200 square foot home. Yeah, no, that's not going to go over very well. You're not going to get that listing. Let's put yourself in the buyer's agent's shoes. If you find that same house that's listed and it doesn't have permits for that nice 400 square foot addition, are you going to advise your buyers, let's only make a offer on this property as if it were a 1,200 square foot home, not a 1,600 square foot home? Are you going to be in the game? No, I see people going like this. No, you're not going to be in the game. So the impact on the market value is positive, and the appraiser should be including that in the square footage. Now, that's not to say that all appraisers do. There are some old school appraisers. I just saw an example of this yesterday on a property in Lafayette, where an appraiser said they wouldn't include the square footage of a garage conversion because it wasn't permitted. Fannie Mae does not say that. Fannie Mae, like I said, only says that the appraiser has to comment on the quality and appearance and the impact on the market value. Okay. Was there another question?
Yes. Go ahead, Vicky, and unmute.
Hello. So what I'm hearing is that the appraisers go by guidelines from Fannie Mae in terms of how they draft a report. And is that sort of true regardless of whether the loan is conforming or jumbo or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Because the forms that we're doing the appraisals on are Fannie Mae forms.
Okay. And then
so go ahead.
And then you had also mentioned that lenders sometimes then add like another sort of layer with the distance and sort of whether to do sale price versus pending price, because the concept is three most similar properties. But I mean, my issue is how are they identifying similar? Like you're saying, Fannie Mae doesn't have distance, square footage, age, none of those requirements. So it's just sort of totally up to the appraiser's discretion.
It's sort of. The appraiser has to put themselves in the boots of a buyer sometimes and say, if I wasn't going to buy this house, which are the other ones that I think are the most similar, and which would be a replacement for this house? Those are the potential comparables that an appraiser would use. You're correct. There is no standardized percentage of difference or size difference that an appraiser has to be within or that they use, because Fannie Mae understands that. And by the way, this all goes for FHA too. We don't do much FHA down here, but this all goes for FHA too. Fannie Mae understands that there's going to be times when you have a log cabin on 20 acres in Alpine County, and they'll do a loan on that. But the underwriting is going to be, and the appraisal process is going to be similar to doing a Garcia tract home here in San Jose. The same concepts apply. Fannie Mae can't do guidelines for every single different type of property all over the US. They have to do one set of guidelines that apply to everything. Now, also keep in mind that word, guidelines. It doesn't say written in stone. It says guidelines, and guidelines are what they want appraisers to follow, but sometimes it's not possible for an appraiser to follow that, especially when they have that, log cabin on 20 acres in Alpine County. And so appraisers have to deviate from guidelines at times, but that's because they're guidelines. They're not hard and fast rules. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And then sort of just in follow on with the lender specs, does that vary from lender to lender then?
It
so
does.
Depends on who their client is.
Yeah. And also whether it's jumbo or conventional also. There are different rules that different lenders have for jumbo financing as opposed to conventional financing. And Sometimes that filters down to the appraiser the first time around, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes when a lender is making a jumbo loan, they'll have some sort of overlay that has an appraisal requirement that the appraiser didn't address the first time around. And so they'll go back to the appraiser and say, hey, can you address this particular issue? Because this is what our requirements are.
I see.
And so the
Thank
appraiser
you.
will take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on here. Sticking with the last part of my stats, which is just a summary of what's going on. You know, the sky isn't falling. Prices are still up. Okay, only 2% from last year, but they are still up. Prices are down though, 12% here in Santa Clara County from the March peak. This is a good thing. There's less competition amongst buyers, but that's because there's less buyers. Okay. Days on market is up 4 months on a row to about 24 days, which is still, you know, like I said, contextual. Remember the context of what we're looking at over a long period of time. 24 days still isn't bad. Sales are down 6%. The number of sales are down 6% from last month and down half from the same month last year, from July of 2021. So again, get out there and sell some more houses. Let's change those numbers. July is going to finish with, I'm sorry, that should be August, is going to finish with the third lowest number of sales in the past 16 months. And you only need to offer list price to be in the game. You know, that's a positive factor for buyers. And yeah, all metrics are pointing to a declining market forecast. Okay, let's change gears a little bit here. Let's talk about how to prepare for an appraisal inspection. I want to see an agent out at the appointment. You guys are still, and always have been, the best source of information for us as appraisers. So meet the appraiser at the property. I always suggest that. Bring your appraisal inspection package, and I'll talk about what goes in that in just a minute. Unlock all the doors. We don't want to have to go through the home, find a bedroom door is locked, because that's going to delay things. We'll have to come back to the property another day, redo the inspection, additional costs, additional time, make sure all the doors are unlocked. Secure animals and children. We had an example one time of one of our appraisers who was chased around by a big rooster. It's not always those little chihuahuas that are or the pit bulls that are, yeah, we watch out for the chickens too. Okay. Don't helicopter the appraiser. Don't be right on top of them. Make sure that you give them the space to do their job. As appraisers, we tend to be very, we do things the same way every single time. And if you get out of your routine, you forget things. So give the appraiser a little bit of space, but be available for and ask questions at the end of the inspection. A good appraiser is going to give you the opportunity to ask questions or to give the appraiser additional information you think is appropriate to the property. Now, what to bring to an appraisal inspection? A fully executed contract. The reason that I ask for a fully executed contract is between the time that you actually send the contract to the lender, the loan officer gets the contract, makes sure everything is in order, sends it to the processor. The processor decides who to order the appraisal from, which AMC. The appraisal gets ordered and sent to us. The contract gets sent to us along with the order. The AMC makes sure that everything is in order on their side. They select the appraiser, send it to the appraiser. The appraiser picks it up a couple of days later, then sets the appointment. That's a couple of days later, and finally gets out to the property. That could be a couple of weeks from the time that that contract was actually signed. And there may have been some negotiation. The addendums to the contracts, the counteroffers don't always get put with the contracts. And so all that stuff needs to be there for the appraiser. If the appraiser does not have a fully executed contract with all the addendums and all the counteroffers, if they don't have that, they'll put a stop to the appraisal process. So make sure you bring that to the appraiser. A list of the property's improvements and when they were completed and even how much they cost. Sometimes things aren't always apparent. Maybe the plumbing system or the electrical system have been totally replaced. Those are behind the walls. Those aren't things that we can see. Have a list of things that were completed and give that to the appraiser. How many offers did you have? Yes, question over there. Yeah, doesn't matter if improvements were done without permits. As appraisers, we don't go and check and see if plumbing permits were taken out to remodel a bathroom. But we don't do that. We assume that the proper permits were taken out. We look for permits with big additions or big changes that were done to the property. Okay. How many offers did you have? It's not always the highest offer that gets accepted. Sometimes there's reasoning for taking a different offer. Do we have a question?
So we have a question on Zoom. Go ahead, Tina.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to circle back to be clear on the permits. You said that gave the example of a 1,200 non-permitted up to 1,600. So I'm hearing that you're saying that you would appraise that as a 1,600 square foot, even if it didn't have permits.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. As long as the addition is built in, and this is the term that a lot of lenders like to see, a workmanlike manner, and it's similar to the rest of the property. Picture the enclosed patio rooms, the prefabbed enclosed patio rooms that you bought from Sears, or let's go way back to Montgomery Ward's, from Sears, that you add, that a contractor will come out and build onto your house. Those aren't insulated. They protect you from the rain, but they're not heated. They're not insulated. They're not the same quality as the original structure. I've seen realtors want to include those in the square footage of the house. An appraiser will not include those in the square footage of the house. It's not that it's not going to be valued. It's just going to be valued separately. So it does have to be similar in quality to the rest of the house. Yes, question.
I want to follow up on that question. So I want to make sure I understand right. So the house is 1,200 square feet. 400 square feet were added on in a workmanlike condition.
Yep.
But no permits. You're going to give that 400 square feet the same dollar per square foot as the 1,200?
Yes. Yeah, because
Really?
the market does. The market does. When you're listing that property, you're going to list it as a 1,600 square foot property.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, in most cases, most realtors will, as long as it's built, again, in a workmanlike manner, and it's similar to the rest of the house as far as its quality and appearance.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been maybe read it to get an opinion on this, but my view, if it isn't if there's no permits on it, I'm not going to count that square footage. I'll count. I mean, it's there. We'll show it being there, but when they look up the listing, it won't say 1,600. It'll say 1,200 square feet, and then the notes it'll say 400 square feet unpermitted.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's so. You see agents put right in the MIG, then they're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We see agents do all kinds of things. We also see appraisers do all kinds of things. And there's even though we have guidelines, sometimes appraisers deviate from guidelines, or they don't know the guidelines. And realtors, of course, don't have the same guidelines. And I'll get into that here in a second with square footage. They don't count things the same way appraisers do. And so that's where sometimes there are conflicts. But Fannie Mae's guideline is if the market recognizes value for that addition and it's similar to the rest of the structure and quality and appearance, then you give it value. Yes. Yeah. Okay, back to bringing what you're going to bring to your appraisal inspection. As far as comparables go, if you're going to bring comparables to the appraiser, pending sales are always the best. I like pending sales because they show the most recent meeting of the minds of buyers and sellers. That's what Fannie Mae talks about in their guidelines in terms of making time adjustments or market condition adjustments. That's what's really important to us as appraisers, the most recent data. Dated, distant, dissimilar sales, even if they've sold at the price that you think your property should appraise for, they're not helpful. Because again, we're always going to go back to the three most recent, three most similar, three most relevant sales, and put notes on the comps. Don't be afraid to give the appraiser a sale that maybe you think isn't going to support your value. Maybe the sale right down the street that the appraiser is going to see, maybe there was an NOD filed on it. Maybe maybe it was a rental that wasn't in that great a condition. Maybe it was a divorce. Go ahead and if you know that information, put that information on the comps for the appraiser. We're going to research that information also, but it tips off the appraiser that, hey, maybe that's not the greatest sale. Or maybe you have a sale with a really nice backyard pool with a slide and a grotto and an elevated spa, and all that listing says for the comps is pool. And maybe the listing agent doesn't go into a lot of detail, but you know that one of those sales has a really great pool. Like you said, put those notes on there. The appraiser will appreciate it. And yes, you can talk to the appraiser. The one thing you don't want to say is, listen, if this property doesn't come in at the contract price, I'm going to make sure you'll never work in this town again. Okay. You can't say that. You can't say that, but you can say, I think this property should come in at 1.8 million. You can say that to the appraiser. We have a copy of the contract. We know what everybody wants. You can say those. That's not undue influence. Saying the appraiser is never going to be able to work in this town again, that's undue influence. You just can't use undue influence when you're talking to the appraiser. You can see the difference there. And I know everybody here doesn't do that anyways. Well, most of you. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the ANSI standard for measuring properties. This is not a new concept to appraisers, but it is a new regulation from Fannie Mae. It's a new requirement, different than a guideline, a new requirement for appraisals starting April 1st. And pretty much every lender, whether they're going to send a loan to Fannie Mae or not, uses this standard, uses Fannie Mae's guidelines. So any appraisal that requires an interior and exterior inspection must follow this standard. If you guys want to write this down, ANSI stands for the American National Standards Institute. You can Google that. There's about I think it's about an 8 or 10 page document that they put out on how to measure a house and how to calculate gross living area. And they're a nonprofit that calculates all kinds of things. The volume of a room, the volume of how to calculate a gallon of gas, how to measure a gallon of gas, how to measure distances, all kinds of things. And their standard has been around for a long time, but Fannie Mae has only recently decided to require it. The problem is realtors, assessors, builders, buyers, sellers, they don't use that standard. You were talking just a little bit ago about how you put a property into the MLS and deal with the square footage for a non-permitted addition. ANSI doesn't say anything about permits. So, and again, realtors, assessors, builders, buyers, sellers, they don't know what the standard is, but appraisers have to use that standard. So that's where you're going to find conflict every once in a while. And I'll show you a couple of things here. The ANSI standard for measuring, it's almost easier to talk about what is not square footage. So enclosed patio rooms, like I just described earlier, not included in the square footage. Accessory dwelling units, whether they're attached to the property or not included in the square footage. Detached rooms, regardless of the finish or regardless if they're heated or not included in the gross living area. Basements, carriage houses. There's a area in Palo Alto where realtors use the term carriage house a lot for anything that's detached, and they always include it in the square footage. Appraisers can't. Garages, unfinished areas, even if it's under the same roof as the rest of the house. Porches, areas under 5-foot ceiling height. Picture an A-frame style home up in the mountains. I have one up in Sonora, an A-frame style home. And on the second floor, because of the pitch of the roof, the sides, probably about 3 feet of the upper floor, has a ceiling height that's less than 5 feet. That cannot be included in the square footage of the house, that area that's under 5 feet. Pool houses cannot be included in the square footage. Shops, any area that's not heated cannot be included in the square footage. Now, it's not that these things don't have value. They do. It's that the appraiser has to value them separately. And this is causing some issues with appraisers, because we're not used to doing that. We're used to looking at an A-frame style house measuring 1,200 square feet. It's a 1,200 square foot house. Buyers paying for a 1,200 square foot house. Seller is selling a 1,200 square foot house. Every public record says it's a 1,200 square foot house, but now the appraiser is saying, well, no, it's really only 1,040 square feet. And with areas where the prices are a little bit lower, like Tuolumne County, that has a big impact on things. So I've seen examples of where with the new ANSI standards, where there's been a conflict and the appraiser maybe doesn't handle it correctly, but the end result is the contract price is not met by the appraised value. Yeah, we have a question over there.
Okay, now I'm a little bit confused. Need your help.
Yes.
So
Oh,
previously,
so are the appraisers. Trust me.
but great class. Thank you so much. Learning a lot.
Thank you.
So previous comments about ADU non-permitted area, then can be included in the value. So if I understand it correctly, that means NC does not allow you as appraiser to include the square footage, but the value is there, not a square footage.
Yeah, we don't include an accessory dwelling unit in the square footage of the house. It's included as a separate amenity, like a pool or like stables, or it's just a separate amenity. But we see realtors all the time that include everything all in one lump sum. Sometimes, like you said, they'll explain it in the comments, maybe in the private comments. But it can be challenging because maybe they'll price the property as if it was a 4,000 square foot house rather than a 3,000 square foot house with a 1,000 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit that's totally separate. Because an appraiser is not going to look for 4,000 square foot houses. The appraiser is going to look for 3,000 square foot houses. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Tony,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if the ADU is attached or detached.
all right,
yes.
we have 2 questions on Zoom. Go ahead, Tina.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on unfinished areas?
Yeah, an unfinished area to me would be anything that's either unheated or doesn't have floor coverings, sheetrock, a ceiling. There can be different levels of unfinishedness, but in general, it would be it's just not fit for habitation.
All right. Second question we have is from Chow. Go ahead, Chow.
Yeah, so I have a related question about the unheated area. So if the addition might not have the heated, but they would the portable heater consider as a heated?
A portable heater is considered personal property and is not part of the real estate. Good question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Square and I'll give you just a sec. Fannie Mae even muddied the waters even more recently because they this came out in April, and last month they had an additional bit of information that they changed for appraisers. So notice basements are not included in the square footage, but let's say your basement has a bathroom and 2 bedrooms and a family room.
Yeah.
That gets included with the room count, not in the basement area, but in the room count, total room count, above grade room count for the appraisal, to make it even more confusing.
Yeah, so it gives the value. It gives the value, but not counting the square footage.
Exactly.
Ah,
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly.
Especially when you stand right. Bathroom, bedroom, down, whatever's down
In the
basement. Still, appraiser will count that.
Exactly. So the question was, where's the appraiser gonna count the bedrooms and bathrooms or whatever rooms are down in a basement? They're going to, Fannie Mae came out with clarification and said, include it in the above grade area, even though it's below grade, and you're not allowed to include the below grade square footage in the square footage that's above grade. You can see how this gets a little crazy. Next question.
But when you close on that, it's with the county the county records will show as a 5-bedroom, not 7 bedrooms.
Right.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what county records show, the appraiser's going to go with the ANSI standard.
And just give the value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not that these areas aren't valued. It's that they're valued separately from the square footage. So your buyer, when they get a copy of the appraisal, they're going to go, well, wait a minute. I bought a 4,000 square foot house. Why is the appraiser saying it's a 3,000 square foot house? And that's where this could be, conflicting. Did we have a question back there, or did I answer it already? Are you good? Yes, you troublemaker. You're good. Okay.
I do
All
have
right.
another, one more question.
Okay, one more question.
My original question is, the ADU, if it's permitted, can you count that?
You can
it's
value it, just not in the square footage of the house.
Okay, thank you.
It's valued as a separate amenity. One more back there.
You're the troublemaker. First of all, thank you for being here. You're always
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
The square footage, when you're measuring it, maybe you're going to talk about that next. Are you doing the outside, the inside,
Yes.
or both?
Yeah.
And if
The
there's-
outside square footage of per ANSI, the ANSI requirement is you measure from the outside of the house. So it includes the walls.
Correct.
For a condo, it's the inside.
Okay. You
The
never,
interior from the paint in. A house, a detached home, includes the exterior walls.
so the square footage is based on the exterior on a
Yes.
single family. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, last slide here. I'm going to give an example of how ANSI kind of comes into play here. So this is a real life example. And one of the ANSI guidelines, one of their requirements is any portion of any level that is below grade must be counted as basement area. Now, below grade, if you look at the diagonal line here that goes under the house and through that lower level, that's the lot. Okay, picture this house on a hillside, and they had to dig out into the hillside a little bit to build that lower level to anchor the structure so that it doesn't slide down the hill. It's very common construction technique. We see it in the hills of San Jose, Los Gatos, Cupertino, Santa Cruz Mountains all the time. Anywhere where there's hillsides, this is what you'll see. If any portion of any level is below the grade, even if it's a small portion, that entire level must be counted as basement area. Okay. So again, if you have maybe tax records, MLS, seller, even the buyer thinks this, everybody says this is a 2,000 square foot house, but the appraiser is going to measure it to a 1,400 square foot house with a 600 square foot basement. And what are they going to look for comparables? Underwriters always want appraisers to bracket everything. Your buyer is buying a 2,000 square foot house, but because only 1,400 square feet of that is above grade, is the appraiser going to go out and look for 1,400 square foot houses? And keep in mind that the MLS doesn't differentiate any of this information for us. You go to other areas of the country and they do. If you go to Utah, Kentucky, New York, the East Coast, the basements are common there, and they differentiate them, what the room counts were, if they're completely below grade, or if they're what they call a daylight basement where you can walk out the back door like this one, this example. Here in California, we don't differentiate that. All we have, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think all we have is a couple of check boxes that say there's a basement, it's finished or unfinished. Is that about it? Yeah. And so there's no way for the appraiser to tell if the comparables are the same. There's a couple data sources that are coming online that help us out with that a little bit, but it's still very, very limited info. So again, what sort of comparables is the appraiser going to use? And I've seen examples that are just like this, where the property did not come in at the contract price. The appraiser used homes that bracketed the above grade area and didn't include the below grade area. And a realtor calls me up and saying, hey, what do I do about this? How come the appraiser says it's such a small house? And it's not to say that appraisers aren't learning to handle this correctly, because they are. In this case, if I was doing this appraisal, I'm going to go out and get 2,000 square foot comps, because that's what the buyer is buying. That's what the seller is selling. That's what we're supposed to recognize as appraisers, is what the market is recognizing. But you will see some examples of appraisers that are saying, no, sorry, 1,400 square foot house. So just be aware of that. That's what I want you to take away from this, is just be aware of that if you have any of those hillside listings, or issues like that. No, you can't. No, you can't. But you can at least prepare the parties that, hey, this is a hillside property, so these are some of the pitfalls in the appraisal process. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that the appraiser is using the most similar, most relevant sales, but these are the pitfalls. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, here's the problem. I'm seeing as an agent is there's rules, but there's not really rules. It's more, put yourself, it's hard for us to give comparables. So why hasn't somebody, the state, the feds, whatever, set up guidelines that everybody has to follow the same rules?
Yeah. Well, that's what Fannie Mae is trying to do here. They're trying to standardize the way appraisers measure homes and count rooms. Again, they made it kind of confusing with their most recent release and their most recent guidance that said in this example here, if there's a family room and a bedroom and a bath in that lower level, count those in the upper level, but count the square footage in the lower level. Yeah, I know. That's kind of what we say as appraisers. I belong to a group called the Collateral Risk Network, and it's a group of appraisers, regulators, AMCs, all over the country. And we get together 4 times a year to try and solve all the world's problems. And this is a big issue right now that we're trying to deal with. And Fannie Mae is pushing the other way, going, well, we want standardization because we have all these new tools coming out, these technology tools to value properties, and it has to, standardization helps with the accuracy. All right, I'll give you Fannie Mae's email address in a little bit, okay? All right, okay. All right, my name is Anthony Blackburn. Apple Appraisal is the name of my company. My contact information is there. I am always happy to help anybody on a deal, whether it's my deal or not. I'm always happy to help. And I want to thank Santa Clara Association of Realtors and for having me here, and all of the attendees for being great. Thank you very much. Any other questions that we want to go through? All right, thank you guys very much.